Today, we're jumping straight into something pretty major that unfolded recently. We're talking about that massive 8.8 magnitude earthquake.
Yeah.
Happened off Russia's far eastern coast, not densely populated, thankfully, but wow, an 8.8. Just to put that in perspective, it's tied for the 6th strongest quake ever recorded. But the real reason we need to dig into this, using the sources you've gathered, is that this wasn't just some remote tremor. Not at all. It set off tsunami warnings. Like instantly, across the entire Pacific. Think Russia, Japan, and all the way over to Hawaii, the US West Coast, even down into Central and South America. It's huge. So our mission today is to unpack this. Look at the immediate impacts, how authorities are scrambling to respond everywhere, and what these waves actually mean for people on the coasts.
It's an incredible amount of energy released, an 8.8. And the speed at which those warnings have to go out across such enormous distances, it really highlights the challenge, a basin-wide alert system being put to the test in real time.
Absolutely. And the first impacts, they were fast, waves hitting Alaska and Russia's far east almost right away. Yeah, our sources showed the Severokurilsk district, that's on the Kamchatka Peninsula, they declared a state of emergency. We're seeing reports, pretty chilling ones, of waves just tearing boats from moorings, sweeping away big storage containers. They evacuated nearly 300 people from the port there alone. So while that's happening in Russia's far east, the clock's already ticking hard for Japan. Japan, obviously, always hyper-aware of tsunami risks. They faced impacts very early on, too. Sources are saying tsunami conditions could stick around for a whole day in Japan. The initial forecasts, they were talking maybe 3-meter waves. What they saw early on was closer to 60 centimeters, about 2 feet, hitting the East Coast. But even so, the sheer number of people affected. Over 1.9 million under evacuation advisories. That's across 21 prefectures. Big ones like Hokkaido, Kanagawa, Wakayama. We had these details like people actually taking shelter up on roofs in Hokkaido. Sendai Airport closed. And importantly, reassurances about the Fukushima nuclear plant. No issues reported there, but they evacuated personnel just in case.
Right, and that difference between the forecast height and the observed height, it's really important. Because even if those first waves seem smaller than predicted, it absolutely does not mean the danger is over.
Yeah.
Not by a long shot. Tsunamis, they aren't just one single event. They can strike repeatedly, a series of waves, sometimes hours apart. That's precisely why the advice is so strong. Don't leave shelters until the official all clear. The risk persists.
Good point. So Russia and Japan dealing with the first waves, and then all eyes, naturally, turn towards Hawaii. It's often that crucial point in the Pacific. And the forecast for Hawaii was, well, pretty alarming, talking about 10-foot tsunami waves possible for some northern coasts. Honolulu's mayor, Rick Blangiardi, was very direct, move to higher ground now. And the governor, Josh Green, urging immediate evacuation, too. He warned, it will not hit one beach, it will wrap around the islands. That's a key point. We're already seeing signs as the updates came in, waves starting to hit Hawaii. And those webcam observations, water receding from shorelines in Kauai and Oahu, that classic ominous sign.
Yes, the receding water. It's tragically often misunderstood. It's not just a weird low tide. It's the trough of the wave arriving first, pulling the wire out before the main crest slams in. It's a critical warning sign. Never ignore it. And we saw a big indicator miles away, actually. Midway Atoll, that's about 1,000 miles northwest of the main islands. They recorded a water rise of over 3 feet, 3.1 feet, so about a meter. Described as the highest tsunami observation over open water seen in the northern Pacific so far from this event. That really signaled the potential for Hawaii.
You hear tsunami, and like I said, people picture that one massive wall of water from the movies. But you're saying it's a series. Sometimes the water goes out first. Can you paint a picture? What does it actually look like, feel like on the coast when it arrives? How different is it?
That's a great question because, the movie version isn't quite right. So a tsunami starts when a huge amount of ocean water is suddenly pushed out of the way. Big earthquake, volcano, big landslide under the sea. The whole column of water, top to bottom. Out in the deep ocean, funny enough, you might barely notice it, just a small rise maybe, but it's moving incredibly fast, like jet plane speed. Then, as it hits shallower water near the coast, it slows down. But all that energy, it has to go somewhere, right? So it piles up, gets much, much taller. When it hits land, it can look like a really fast flood rising incredibly quickly. Or sometimes, yes, like a wall of water. And sometimes you get that dramatic draining effect first. The sea pulls way back, exposing the seabed before the main waves surge in. And crucially, like we said, it's usually not just one wave, it's a series. Flooding in, draining out, flooding back in again, sometimes for hours. A big one can push water more than a mile inland in low-lying areas. Helen Janistewski, she's an assistant professor at the University of Hawaii, described it really well. Said it's very much just like a torrent of floodwater coming at you at the coastline.
Fast, powerful, and very, very dangerous.
And it's not just the wave itself, but how the land, especially underwater, shapes it. Local geography can make things much worse in specific spots, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really complex and, frankly, quite dangerous. The shape of the seabed, the bathymetry, matters hugely. You might have an underwater canyon or maybe a shallower ridge. These features can act like a lens, focusing the wave energy. Or a funnel. Imagine squeezing water through a narrow gap. It speeds up, gets higher. That's sort of what can happen. An underwater valley can funnel wave energy, forces the waves to grow taller and hit with more force. That explains why it's not just the coastlines directly facing the wave source that are at risk. The waves can refract, bend around islands, and get focused. We see a specific warning for this in Northern California, a relatively small stretch from Cape Mendocino up to Oregon. They're warning about potentially higher waves there, maybe up to 5 feet, because of this funneling effect. And it brings back memories of Crescent City, California, devastated back in 1964 by a tsunami amplified by local topography, a very hard lesson.
So, given all this, authorities across the Pacific are obviously taking this very seriously. Lots of preparations underway. Travel is being hit hard, especially into Hawaii. Flights diverted, delayed, canceled from places like LA, Vancouver, San Francisco, San Diego. Hawaiian Airlines, Alaska Airlines, they're holding departures heading that way. In Hawaii itself, emergency shelters are open. Oahu, Kauai, Maui, Hawaii County, and the Coast Guard, they've closed all the harbors there to commercial ships. Smart move. You mentioned 2011, the Japan quake caused about $7.5 million in damage in Hawaii then. So Hawaii has apparently learned from that. They've upgraded its evacuation maps and siren networks since then. Hopefully that makes a difference this time. Okay, shifting to the U.S. West Coast. Different levels of alert here, and it's important people understand this. Alaska's Aleutian Islands and that specific bit of Northern California we mentioned, they're under a full tsunami warning. That's the highest level. Means get away from the coast, get to high ground now. But the rest of the U.S. West Coast, it's under a tsunami advisory. It's less severe, but still serious. Advisory means expect dangerous currents, strong waves, stay out of the water, stay away from beaches, harbors, marinas. It's definitely not a nothing to worry about situation. Still hazardous. They've put out estimated arrival times too. Oregon, Washington around 11:35 p.m. Pacific time, California coast around 11:50 p.m. Then San Francisco Bay, maybe 12:40 a.m. Los Angeles Harbor on 1 a.m. These are just estimates, of course.
And local authorities are acting on those advisories too.
Yeah, exactly. In California, Monterey County, they warned people living on boats in Moss Landing to evacuate by 12:15 a.m. Pacific. Worried about strong currents and potential damage within harbors? Makes sense. Even in Los Angeles, where the predicted wave surge is smaller, maybe less than 1 foot, Mayor Karen Bass confirmed they've made essential preparations. Police, fire, buses on standby. Though other parts of the California coast expect more, Port San Luis maybe 3.7 feet, Crescent City potentially 4.8 feet. So still significant localized impacts expected.
Those harbor surges can be really destructive even if the overall wave height isn't enormous. Creates chaos for boats and infrastructure.
Definitely. And they're not taking chances in LA. Reports of police helicopters flying along the coast, blaring sirens and warnings, trying to get people away from the water's edge. And amidst all these official warnings and preparations, you also hear the human stories. Like this tourist mentioned in the sources, Jeffrey Booker. He was in Hawaii. His cruise plans just completely upended. Ship ordered out of port, and he's suddenly stuck trying to figure out what to do during a major emergency. It really brings home the individual impact, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Disrupts lives instantly, far beyond the immediate physical danger zone.
So this isn't just a North Pacific issue. Let's widen the lens again. How far south did these alerts reach?
Oh, quite far. South and Central American countries were issuing alerts too. Chile put its entire coastline under a tsunami threat status via their national system. Peru's Navy was monitoring closely. Ecuador predicted waves around 1.4 meters, that's like 4.6 feet, possibly hitting the Galapagos Islands. And there's an integrated alert system for Mexico and Central America that issued alerts from Ensenada in Mexico all the way down to Panama. So, yeah, truly basin-wide concern.
Let's bring in some expert perspective on the quake itself. Harold Tobin, a seismologist at University of Washington, had some interesting insights, right?
He did. He pointed out something quite important. While 8.8 is massive, this quake might not be as dangerous as, say, the 9.0 Fukushima quake in 2011. And the reason is kind of counterintuitive. It's about the direction the energy is focused. He can explain that some of these big offshore earthquakes, they tend to direct their energy outwards across the ocean rather than back towards the nearest landmass. That can sometimes spare the closest coastlines from the absolute worst, even though it sends powerful waves across the entire ocean basin.
Interesting. So the orientation of the fault rupture matters a lot.
Tremendously.
Yeah.
And Tobin basically said that what happens in Hawaii over the next few hours, that will be a test of what we might expect around the rest of the Pacific Rim. He stressed the range of possibilities could be really not any significant damage at all at long distances, or it could be significant damage in areas that are right at coastal levels. It really depends on how that energy interacts with local coastlines thousands of miles away.
So the key message remains about coastal vulnerability.
Exactly. He emphasized, people don't need to panic if they're well inland or significantly above sea level, especially far from the quake source. But right at the shoreline, in harbors, marinas, low-lying coastal towns, that's where the hazard lies. That's the critical zone.
What an incredible and sobering display of the planet's power. This 8.8 quake originating off Russia's coast has sent ripples of impact, quite literally, across the entire Pacific, triggering actions from Asia to the Americas. It really shows how interconnected everything is.
It certainly does. And it's a stark reminder, isn't it? Tsunamis are incredibly complex. They're unpredictable in many ways. Even with our best science, our warning systems, the specific way waves interact with unique coastlines, the fact that it's multiple waves over hours. It means even distant events can have dramatic localized consequences. I think this event really underscores something crucial. Even with all our technology and forecasting, nature is still full of surprises. Real preparedness isn't just about hearing the warning. It's about understanding the deeper forces at play, the uncertainties, and constantly learning how our world works.
A powerful thought to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you continue to explore and understand this dynamic planet we live on.